Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Mind Monkeys Welcome, Bananas Optional, a regular LinkedIn live stream where we name, explain, and reframe the most common hesitations that get in the way of the successes that we deserve. I'm Mark Franklin. I am your guide as we embark on a raw, honest, irreverent, and important conversation designed to normalise the fears that we each face at work and at play in order to help you, our amazing listener, reframe the perspectives around the stories that you've created for yourself that have been feeding those monkeys. Now, today I am joined by resilience guide and new author, Gilly Mulford. Gilly is an advocate for resilience and the restorative power of a quiet mind. Originally the founder of a virtual assistant business, she spent years helping busy professionals and families find clarity and restore order. She created both the practical space that brings structure and the emotional space that allows us to breathe, think, and reconnect with what truly matters. Her work now reaches far beyond organising homes and businesses. It reaches the heart of well-being. So you can guess why I've invited her onto the show today. Through her writing, because Gilly, as I say, is a newly published author, through her writing, Gilly explores emotional clarity, self-trust, and the courage it takes to find your voice again. Gilly, welcome to My Monkeys. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's a real honour, Mark. I'm so excited to talk about this.
The honour is mine. I'm looking sideways, so I've got so many questions because we want to talk about this today. This is your book. It came out on Tuesday.
It did, yes.
Right? Fantastic. Normally, the very first question I ask every one of my guests is about mind monkeys. So it's kind of, tell me about your monkeys. What is the most common hesitation that you face either in your own life or the one that you see most sort of often within sort of the lives of the people that you serve? You have very, very generously shared your story, your incredible story of sort of resilience in this book. So I'm going to invite you, if you would be so kind, just to give us a very sort of quick overview explanation of your story and what led you to share that, as I say, so generously in Where Dandelions Grow.
Oh, goodness me. My life, I would say the universe has thrown more than my fair share of trauma at me in my life. And at various stages, I've struggled to cope. I've had a breakdown. I've been suicidal. Therapy that I've had, the techniques that I've picked up over the years have enabled me to be a strong, independent person that I am today and help others. And it's out of all those conversations that I've had over the years when people have said to me, you're inspirational, you're amazing. How do you rock up when this has now happened to you? And how much more can you take? I'm like, yeah, bring it on. It's fine because I've got these coping mechanisms. So when people say you rock up, you're bubbly, you're positive all the time, does nothing faze you? I'm like, it does, but it's taking those moments to pause and sharing that with people has really been the inspiration behind the book. I had one in particular, a friend that asked me for some help one evening, and I shot straight to her house. And then she stayed with me the following weekend, and we joked that she had like 13 hours of therapy in the garden with me as we were chatting. But to see the miraculous difference in her when she took on board what I'd shared with her and she worked and she practiced the techniques, she said, you need to get this down on paper. And I said, oh, I'll write a little guide. So I started to write, and 6 weeks later, I had a 12-chapter book. It just
That's incredible.
came out. I don't know where it came from. It's never been on my radar to write a book. If someone had ever said, would you like to write a book? I'd have said categorically, absolutely no. And no way, no, not something I could do. But it just happened. And here it is.
Here it is. 6 weeks. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing, I mean, again, it'd be good to sort of hear a little bit about that sort of writing process. But the fact that, there's so much of your own story in here. And as you say, the sort of the power of sharing that and sharing the tools that have helped you along the way. And that resilience is a word that sort of seems to be like the red thread through the book. And I absolutely love that. And this kind of there's a sort of trampoline analogy as well, isn't there, that you share in terms of that kind of bounce back ability when you're kind of falling, you realise that there is the opportunity through choice to bounce back up. There's a question that was raised by someone who helped you sort of early on in some of the many traumas that you've experienced and that you, as I say, generously share. Question from, I think it was your counsellor, which was really powerful. It's one of the first things that I've got loads of post-its on here already. They asked you, who is Gilly?
Yes, and at that time it was so difficult because when they asked me who are you? I was like, well, and I was going through a divorce, so I said I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an EA, I'm this, I'm that, and they said, no, who are you? And I didn't know because I'd taken on the roles that I did, and that's who I saw myself as. So me as an individual, it was a real work to try and drill down and find out who I was and what I wanted. Because I'd lost part of that identity. I was getting a divorce, so I was no longer going to be a wife. So I felt like I was losing part of my identity, when in actual fact I wasn't. I was at the very base of building it and identifying who I was, who I wanted to be, or developing into who I wanted to be. And it was really, really difficult. And I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to be. So and I say to other people, if you don't know what you want, start with what you don't want. And then when you start ruling out what you don't want or what you don't want to be, it narrows the field completely, whether that's identifying with yourself, whether it's a job, whether it's a dog that you want to get, whatever it is in life. If you don't really know what you want, start with what you don't want. And it just filters things down for you and makes things a little simpler. So it was a lot of work for me and quite hard to think, actually, I don't know who I am.
It's the reason the question stood out for me, again, as you've just shared, it's such a powerful question. And it's such a deep answer to explore. And I love that flip that you've just shared. What is it you don't want? As you were beginning to kind of explore who Gilly is, would you mind sharing just some of the things you decided you didn't want, some of the things that were no longer or should never have been Gilly?
Being a total pleaser all of the time, putting myself last, in the list, making sure that everyone else is okay, sacrificing the things I wanted to do because I was, no, you go out, I'll look after the children, all of those things that we tend to do more as mothers, especially if you're a single mum, you're making sure that your children are okay before anything else. And within that, you lose your identity. So it was a case of, right, you've got to put yourself first because you can't help your child. I couldn't help Ollie if I wasn't in a place that I was putting myself first to a certain degree. Because if I don't look after myself, I can't look after him. And it did get to that stage where I had to actually go, and my ex-husband had to move back into our house to look after our son because I wasn't well enough to even look after myself. And I went and lived with friends, and they looked after me for a month while I worked through with some therapists. So some dark times. Yeah, here I am. And this is the power of discussion. It's so important. And I said to you beforehand that there is no topic that's off limits with me, because I think it is so, so important to discuss anything that you need to and get out.
I completely agree. I mean, I've used the word generosity a couple of times. In many ways, that I think that undervalues just how much you've given of yourself, both to this book and indeed the work you do and the conversations you have. I couldn't agree more in terms of the more we talk about these things, hopefully the easier it is for the people around us, the people in front of us, to start exploring who they are and answer that question that your sort of counsellor asks you. There's a wonderful paragraph in here, and again, I think it's kind of sort of relevant to as you begin to explore who you are, who you've been, who you no longer want to be. I'm just going to read it if I may, because this is it's a fantastic kind of touch on neuroscience, but I think it's worth everyone hearing because it's such an important part of the journey. Your brain has been trained by trauma and pain to expect the worst, to interpret hope as danger, to mistake healing for another hurt waiting to happen. Yet that light, however dim it seems, is real. It's the accumulation of small victories you can't see yet, the quiet work your body is doing to repair itself, the gradual rewiring happening beneath your awareness. Recovery asks you to walk toward that light even when every instinct tells you to run the other way, trusting that sometimes what looks like an ending is actually a beginning. That, I mean, it's beautifully written for a start. Well done. But again, there is so much in that paragraph. Could you just expand on that, almost the contradiction that exists within your own mind in terms of your brain trying to keep you safe and
I
yet
mean,
who you're trying to
yeah,
become being.
it
Go
is. I
for it.
mean, we are born with self-preservation. It's in our DNA. Your mind wants to keep you safe, out of harm's way. But within that, sometimes it restricts you in doing what you want to do, what you need to do. And it's reinforced in our upbringing. Don't touch that. Don't climb a tree. You might fall out. Don't run too fast. You might fall over. Because your parents have seen the dangers and they're trying to reinforce that with you. But when it becomes an issue where it's stopping you doing things, when and this I think is when anxiety and other thoughts and feelings come in, it stops you taking that next step forward. And I use the analogy of it's like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and you thinking it's an oncoming train. When in actual fact it's not. It's the light, it's the way out. But your mind is saying, don't go there, that's a train. It's the preempting of danger that isn't actually there. And that's when we have to sit and challenge what is thought and what is fact. Because our thoughts aren't real.
No. And again, that was one of the points that I was going to leap onto because, again, so I'm looking sideways just to remind me of some notes. You said there's a line in there, your inner critic doesn't care about facts. Thoughts are not facts. So to challenge it, you ask, where is the proof? Just, again, expand on that. You've got your brain telling you, creating these stories. How through some of the techniques you've used, through some of the things you share later in the book, how do you challenge it? How do you demand that proof?
You just have to listen to that voice. The worst thing you can do is shut the door on it, shout at it, tell it to shut up, because it is a force stronger than you. You need to take away its power.
Nice.
So when it bangs on the door, if you shut the door, it will bang louder and louder and louder until you open and you hear what it's got to say. So imposter syndrome and inner critic are the same thing. One is just reinforcing the other. So I characterized mine. I gave it a name. So it was Dave, and you meet Dave in the book. And it was a case of, okay, make him an acquaintance, not your enemy. So he comes in, you listen to what it's saying. Don't climb that tree, you might fall out. But if you say to him, oh, okay, I hear what you're saying, but how do you know I'm going to fall out of the tree? Doesn't. He hasn't got an answer because it's not fact, it's a thought. Yes, it's self-preservation, but he's telling you something that isn't real. So when you challenge it, he'll fumble. It doesn't know what to come back with.
Yeah.
So in your mind, you've got the choice then, and this is the whole sort of theme of the book, is the power of the choice, to say, well, if I'm careful and I climb that tree, what if I get to the top and the beautiful view I'll see, or I'll get to pick those apples, or you can outweigh that negative thought that he's put in there, and that's that, through self-preservation, to keep you safe. Because you don't know you're going to fall out of the tree. You don't know you're going to get to the top. But equally, you don't know that you're not going to be safe or that you are going to be safe. It's how you interpret what you're doing and then looking at the facts and not the thoughts. And it takes work. It takes a lot of time. But eventually, my Dave stopped rocking up because I say, thank you for your advice, but I choose not to take it. And before I knew it, he wasn't coming round anymore. He's obviously still there, but he doesn't have a lot to say these days because I took the power away from him by letting him speak, hearing to what he had to say, and then choosing not to take that advice.
Brilliant. And as you said, it's a huge amount of work. It's a long journey. And within that, you've got to be prepared to have those conversations and hear Dave out, and still have the sort of the resilience, the tenacity to thank him and make your own decision. Again, thinking about sort of the work that you do now, the people that you support, what kind of tips, techniques, how do you help people show up and have those conversations with their own Dave?
Sometimes, I mean, it can be really, it's usually really personal. There's usually something personal that's gone on that's underlying that Dave has grabbed hold of. It's a fear, it's a past trauma, and that is what he's anchored on because he knows that's where he can push your buttons. So it's
Yeah.
finding what that point is and then working on it, working through acceptance of what's happened. Like you can't change it, but you can make a difference in the choices you make going forward. We work on, don't live with regrets. The decision you made at any one point in your life was probably right for you at that time. You might not do the same thing now, but at that moment in time, it was right for you then. So it's not a regret. It's an experience that you've learned from, and yeah, probably wouldn't do that again. You might go, oh yeah, okay. But Dave your inner critic will anchor down. So it's getting to the root sometimes of what is your greatest fear, and then working through that and rationalizing it and separating the thoughts from the fears to disarm Dave as such.
Lovely. So I just want to ask a little bit more about your journey again. As you say, you endured many different sort of traumas, and all sorts of kind of moments in your life which were very, very difficult. Through that, or sort of perhaps because of that, you found this journey where you are looking to help others, and again, sort of take this sting and sort of take the power away from people's inner critics and help them find who they really are. Tell me about the joy that brings you. Just share.
It just makes my heart sing. I mean, after I'd written the book, when friends said, oh, you need to get this out there, you need to do it. For me, using the dandelion, it's so important to me because it's me spreading my seeds of strength for other people to grow their roots of resilience. So when people take something on, they say, this worked and I love this and I use this now. And it just fills me with so much joy. I mean, I get really emotional because it's listening to people's stories. I mean, that's what my life's about. And if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't. I do charity work all the time, and I'd be going, yeah, I'll come and do that, and I'll help you. And because I just feel like that's my purpose now. That whether I'm like, I'm sort of more of a spiritual sort of person, as in, the universe has thrown so much at me. It's like, oh, okay, if this was the path you wanted me to be on to write this book, okay, I've taken heed now. I listen. I heard what you say. Enough already, but I'm doing it. This is the path you've chosen. Then I'm on that path now. But it just makes me incredibly happy and incredibly proud that I can share it, and it's all through experience. I'm not a clinician, I'm not a trained counsellor or therapist, so it's written from the heart. And like you say, from real experience, childhood trauma, abuse, a breakdown, being suicidal, being in that point, losing my son through suicide. That was hard, but early on, because of the techniques that I've got, accepting that he wasn't here anymore, it was his decision. But I also had the understanding of that because I'd been at that point. So I knew what he was going through in that 5-minute window, that ultimate at that ultimate point. Divorce, redundancies, there's just been so much. But I've got stronger as I faced each one because I practice what I preach effectively. And like you say, it is a constant work in progress, but practice breeds habit. And eventually you're doing things without your subconscious has taken over and the algorithms of your brain have changed, and you're doing something without even thinking. You've automatically gone to a positive, not a negative, or you've challenged, you've gone, no, paused, and this is just a thought, it's not fact. And identifying, anxiety and relabeling it, and all of those things.
I mean, it's a remarkable kind of scale of emotion, isn't it? In terms of, the part of Gilly's story, which is here, and who Gilly is now, and you as you say, through that lived experience, you are an absolute glowing testament to the power of choice. It's remarkable. A lot of counsellors, coaches, therapists, even through the work I do, you hope to see that somebody is able to begin that journey of better choices through the work you do. But you said everything when we first met, and this is a point that I really wanted to share. When we first met, and it wasn't that long ago, it was only a few sort of months ago, and you started telling me about the book, and obviously everything you were telling me about the book was like, for me, God, I want to read this. This is so aligned with the kind of work I do. This is a kindred spirit. I really like where you're taking this and the messaging. But that energy you had, I didn't know anything about your backstory. And it would have never have crossed my mind that someone this positive, this so full of energy and generosity and that willingness to help others, all of that came from such traumatic times. But I think it's so important for people to hear stories like yours. There's a reference quite early on in the book to Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember. It's behind me. Different story, different kind of scale of trauma, I guess, but a very similar outcome, perhaps, in terms of that optimism and that cause, that determination to
that choice of how you want to think.
Yeah.
You control your thoughts at the end of the day.
Yeah.
People say, well, I can't help that this thought comes into my head. Well, you can, because you can pause and you can challenge it, or you can say, actually, that doesn't serve me well today, or I don't want to think like that. I'm going to think of something else. I'm going to go down a different route. It's so interesting. So interesting.
It's fascinating, and I'm guessing even though, as you say, you're more positively wired now. Your brain looks for sort of the habits that serve you, as opposed to sort of interrupt or hold you back. There must still be moments where Dave just pop up and says, "Oh, it's me. How can I interrupt you today?" Is it purely just you are now used to challenging and questioning, or do you still have those moments of, "Oh, hold on, what if?"
Yeah, I do. I mean, Dave might rock up and say something like, "Oh, okay, come on then, bring it on. What have you got for me today?"
Yeah.
That sort of attitude. And I can imagine him going, "Oh, right, okay, I'm not going to bother then." If he's like, "Oh, well, I'm defeated already," because I'm like, "Yeah, come on, what have you got to say?" But equally, there are times when you think, or you start to catastrophize or spiral. But I have a trampoline, so my trampoline is like the power of the pause. It's if you recognize you're spiraling, or you start to catastrophize, or the inner critic, "Oh, well, what if I'm not this, or what if this happens?" If you recognize it, which you train your brain to do, then that's it, because you've paused and you've recognized it and you've gone, okay. I mean, the other week I was feeling quite overwhelmed, and my friend said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm feeling overwhelmed." And she said, "Are you all right?" I said, "I am, because I've recognized it, I've named it, so therefore I've paused, I know what it is. So what am I going to do? I am now going to take a step forward, because I know what it is, I know what I'm doing. So all I can do is go forward, because I've recognized it." So it's like, well, now I'm going to take action. So that's fine. So nothing really phases me. Yeah. I'm not asking, I'm not putting it out there for the universe to throw anything else, and I'm not challenging the universe, believe me.
No, for sure. But I mean, again, everything you've just said there, that sort of power of the pause, just giving yourself the space to recognize that there is a choice in this moment, as opposed to just going with the emotion or accepting of it. It's a very simple kind of hack, if you want to call it that. And yet it's not that simple, because so many people overlook that opportunity, don't they?
Yeah, there's so many layers underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's, again, something else I just want to sort of read from the book, if I may. This was, I thought, again, a really important sort of paragraph. Because, again, whilst you and I, through the work we do, we want to help people notice that choice and take on that pause. And as you've said a couple of times already, sort of this morning, there's a lot of work involved in terms of helping somebody get there. But it's lovely, again, it's only a 5-line paragraph. There's no shame in needing help to gain perspective. Needing help doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're wise enough to know that some journeys aren't meant to be taken alone. And that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say, I can't do this by myself right now. And I want to share that because, again, I think it is really important to normalise, the idea of putting your hand up and saying, actually, I think I need someone else just to kind of hold that space for me whilst I pause. Tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me a bit more about your experience of having that value of someone by your side in those moments.
It's really hard to ask for help. I think it's one of the hardest things that there is to do. A lot of people think they're resilient and are resilient to a certain degree, and it feels like failure when you're asking for help because you're no longer strong enough to do what you've always been doing, juggling all the plates, helping other people. And it's that fear of failure and fear of someone else's opinion of you, that you're not the person that they think you are. And there's another line that I use in there is, frankly, someone else's opinion of you is none of your business. So put that opinion to one side. But having someone by my side, my best friend has been there. She's been my rock, my co-conspirator, she's just incredible. And asking for help. I mean, I was at one stage I was having therapy, and counselling, and my counsellor said, I want you to go back to your best friend and ask her if you're a burden to her, because I was so caught up with, I can't ask for help because I feel I will be a burden, that I'm. And I remember sitting on the sofa and looking at her and saying, I've got to ask this question to you out loud. I don't want to ask it because I know the answer and it seems ridiculous. And I'm going to laugh while I'm asking it. But I said, I have to ask you, when I ask for help, am I a burden? Oh, well, yeah, we laughed and there was, we had, I said, exactly. She said, why? I said, because I've had to ask it out loud. The power of having that discussion and saying something out loud, it's going through your mind. You know what the answer is going to be. And it just sounded ridiculous, me asking her, because I knew that I wasn't. But it was also so powerful because it re-emphasized that, no, you're not a burden and you do need help and you do need to ask for help. So for me, being a burden was the biggest part of more than appearing to be a failure. And it's different for everybody. The reasons why you don't ask for help are very, very different. And sometimes asking for help can just be keeping a journal, writing something down on a page, having that power of discussion. Doesn't have to be a physical discussion. It can be a conversation with a piece of paper. You can go out and burn it. You can give it to you can do whatever you want to do, write your worries down, but that can be quite cathartic as well. Just working through things. But it is difficult to ask for help, and I recognise that because I've been there. And at one stage, when I was in that moment of not wanting to be here anymore and I was suicidal, I hadn't asked for help. It's only that my best friend had come around that day and asked me a question, and then I broke down that, actually stopped me. So it's recognizing when you need to ask for help and that overwhelm's kicking in for whatever reason, and just putting on your big girl pants or big boy pants and going, do you know what? Ooh. Messaging someone and saying, have you got 5 minutes? Have you got time for a coffee?
Yeah.
Setting up a code word with your best friend. That's or nice. An emoji on the phone. So you don't even have to speak, or you don't even have to write something. You just send them an agreed emoji that means I need you now.
That's hugely powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's a very I love the kind of the simplicity of that. Again, you're taking away some of the scale of that challenge of putting your hand up, aren't you? Just turning it into something very small, very simple, very immediate. Yeah, one button, one click, one press. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Gilly.
Yeah.
I'm looking sideways because again, in the the book only arrived sort of late last night. I was sort of trying to read the digital version. In a very, very good way, I stopped so many times thinking, well, this is something I need to mention. This is something I need to mention. I'm going to turn it around. If someone had to just leap to one chapter of the book, where would you say they would get the most value from where down the
Oh,
title?
goodness. That's really difficult because the book isn't written for you to read it from start to finish. You can, but each chapter is a standalone chapter with a different technique. So that one thing might work for one person, one might work for something else, something that's actually resonated with you, you can revisit. So yeah, there isn't one particular piece.
That's absolutely fine. I think that's a really valid point, though, as you say, different things work for different people, and the fact that there is such a breadth of different ideas, suggestions, approaches makes the book even more valuable.
It is, and that's why we use the seeds. We use the analogy of the mind's garden. I can give you the seeds, these seeds of strength, which are really, really simple techniques to do. It's easy to scatter the seeds. The hard work is in the nurturing, in the watering of them, it's that. But then when they start to bloom, some might lie dormant, others, this is your mind's garden that you're planting up. So your mind's garden will look very different to mine. Mine will blossom in different areas. Some seeds will lie dormant. Some won't take root at all. So it's very different, and it's very individual to each reader as to what they will take from it, what they will interpret, and how they'll use it.
Excellent. Completely valid. Thank you. So, go on then, Gilly. What's next? The book is out there. I mean, it's been less than a week. It was #1 bestseller in two categories. Just saying that out loud. What's next?
Oh, what's next? So I'm going to be doing some speaking events. I'm going to do. I've got a couple of invitations for podcasts. So it's getting out there and helping people. I mean, that's the idea of the book. I never wrote it with the intention of, I want to be a bestseller, and it was like, just get it out there. So many people have asked me, can I do that now? So it's out there, and it's spreading that hope and the techniques. So it's just looking to expand on that now and talk, whether it's to corporates, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's group coaching, charities, reformation, whatever's going to come my way, I will embrace. Literary festivals we've got coming up, and a wellness festival in October. So that's exciting. Lots on the horizon.
And just think about my own experience of writing a book. I found the whole thing very cathartic, and it gave me a lot more clarity around how I want to work and who I want to work with. What about yourself? How has this changed, if at all? Because it might not have changed who you want to work with, how you want to work with them, and so on. Or is it just kind of giving you even more just passion and commitment to just do more?
Yeah, it is. It's do more, and I think further down the line, I will probably will sort of it'll channel more. But at this stage, at the book launch last night, I had some say, "Would you do talks?" I'm the mental health champion at work, and we need someone to talk about. And I said, "Well, do you want to talk about grief? Do you want to talk about overwhelm? Do you want to talk about general well-being?" I said, go to the website, there's signature talks that gives you an idea on there, the things that I can talk about, but I could adapt it to whatever you need, whatever you want to talk about, and emphasize that no subject was off limits either. If they have to cover off suicide, if they have to cover off grief, loss, redundancy, because things like redundancy, people forget, you go through a grieving process of losing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a loss. Any loss usually has a grieving process. So yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? It's such an exciting time. So for all these people listening who want to have Gilly in there, or they need Gilly in their lives right now, whatever that looks like, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
My website, gillymulford.com. All the information about me, what I do, what I'm up to, and obviously a link to the book and details of the book if they fancy diving in.
Fantastic. And all your socials are Gilly Mulford as well, aren't they? Actually,
Yes, they are.
On all the platforms, so you're very easy to find. Gilly, thank you so much. Again, I've used the word generosity many times, but I think the book is such a generous gift to the world from you in terms of helping people make better choices, take that pause, and recognize that the inner critic does not like facts, likes to make up stories for us. So don't listen to Dave. Listen to your heart, follow the universe, and find out who you are. Again, really appreciate your time. Good luck with the book. I can't wait to finish it and then probably read it all over again and come back with more questions. But anyway, thank you so much. We shall leave it there. I know we've had people listening. People were just sort of commenting, in terms of who are you is the most difficult question to ask of all. Was one thing that someone's mentioned. So for everyone listening, go give Gilly a follow for sure. And just to let you know that the next episode of Mind Monkeys Welcome is exactly the same time next Friday, so the 12th of June, with the amazing mentor, coach, sort your shit out guide, as she likes to call herself, Sarah Suffy.
Amazing.
So that's one to tune into. We're both big fans of Sarah, aren't we? So that's gonna be a good one. Again, Gilly, thoroughly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone
Thank
for
you
tuning
so
in,
much.
and see you all next week.